Welcome back, everyone. This is the third quarterfinal match of the mtg-world.com sealed tournament of the century between Adam and Todd. And joining me in the booth, as always, is none other than Adam.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
You see, I'm two places at once. I can both comment on this match and play it at the same time.
Oh, a rarity in Magic, it looks like both players actually kept their starting hand. Must be those shiny silver labels. Alright, just a land apiece from the players so far. Another land for Todd. Not sure if he can cast anything yet. Looks like Todd's got a grip of Pyrotechnics, Plague Rats, Orcish Artillery, maybe another land or two.
But doesn't look like he has any red mana.
Ooh, Black Lotus from Adam.
Alright, turn 2. We got a monster play here. Turn 2, Moss Monster, a 3/6 for 5. No abilities, though.
Other than looking really cool.
I think it costs double green, so the Lotus was sacked for green.
A third land for Todd, but he still doesn't have a mountain to cast any of those red cards. Todd taking his time to mull over all his options here.
Alright, looks like a Plague Rats is going to be coming down.
Now this is an interesting choice for his deck. Can starters have more than one of the same common?
No, you only get one of any common.
So this Plague Rats is just a 1/1 for 3.
I would say a pretty overpowered card in this format.
I guess he could always hope you're playing one too.
Alright, looks like this monster's getting in for 3.
Todd goes down to 17. He elects not to block with the Plague Rats.
You know, like in some of the players when they first start playing, they're like, I attack you with my monster. I'm actually attacking with a monster here. Alright, looks like a Fire Sprite.
1/1 flyer.
Filters red for green mana? Or is it green for red?
It turns green into red.
Okay. I'm playing this card and I don't even know what it does. So you notice that I separated my creatures out a bit.
Is there a reason for that?
So, you know, in this format, there could be... we said that Chaos Orb and Falling Star were legal, and Todd actually has a Falling Star in his deck, which, you know, has the Chaos Orb effect. If it falls on a creature, it can deal 3 damage to it. Alright, he gets in for 1, so we're at 19. I think here we're having a conversation about how Falling Star works. I think I'm saying to him that if just the sleeves touch the sleeves, then there's no damage. The card has to actually overlap the card for there to be damage done, and he agreed to that.
Sounds pretty reasonable.
Well, especially since we're using these card savers and they're pretty big. If you notice, we actually have these little silver labels on them. These are RCR'd by Beckett, so just so that we had grades guaranteed, but it does make shuffling a little bit more difficult.
And for those of us that aren't too familiar with what that means, what does RCR stand for?
It's just raw card review, so it's not like their regular slabbing service, but it's still, they provide the overall grade, but without subs. Alright, looks like the Moss Monster got terrored so before damage.
But that Fire Sprite still got in,
Alright,
taking Todd down to 16.
All right, 4 mana. We got a War Mammoth. This is a 3/3 trample for 4. But the reason Todd's looking at that is because it's a BGS 10 War Mammoth. So, I mean, I think it should be a 10/10.
10 being the highest grade that a reviewed card can get. Very rare for cards this old, even when opened fresh from a pack. Alright, Todd untaps and hopes to draw some land, which he did, a mountain right off the top. Todd's looking awfully intently at that Orcish artillery. Unfortunately, he's going to need one more red mana to cast it, despite what's printed on the card.
We should just let him play it. I mean, play the cards how they're printed, right?
That could have been pretty interesting, but that's not what the players agreed to. Todd tapping some mana here.
It looks like he's actually trying to cast the Orcish Artillery.
Yeah, I don't think Todd was watching the previous match where this happened.
Yeah, I think Koji tried to cast it. So right here I'm explaining to him that it's actually 2 red and a colorless. So he's got to put it back in his hand, get a gameplay violation.
Get a warning.
Yeah.
All right, Todd. One more warning and you're out.
All right, so instead he plays a Pestilence, which is a quite powerful card. So this is a 4 mana enchantment that you can pay a black to deal 1 damage to all creatures and players. But at the end of any turn, if there are no creatures in play, you have to sacrifice Pestilence. So I think I was just reading it to make sure that it's still as good as I remembered it to be.
It is.
Looks like I just drew a terror. So I get in for 4.
Todd goes down to 12 if he elects not to block anything.
Creatures splitting apart again.
Falling Star is a sorcery, so it's always important to remember to do that before you pass turn. It's too bad there's not any Chaos Orb-based land destruction in this format. I would have liked to see you spread your entire board out across 4 or 5 playmats.
Maybe I should have put my creatures on top of Todd's creatures, and then he'd be forced to kill his own guys with a Falling Star.
Can I get a judge ruling on that?
I would say it's legal. So here I think I didn't play the Ironroot Treefolk in my hand because I didn't want it to get killed by Pestilence. But in hindsight, I probably should have, because it would have been too much damage for him to handle when he finally had enough black mana to wipe the board.
Of course, if he can get another creature down, he would also have the option of potentially blocking an Ironroot Treefolk.
Yeah. So,
but that's still a turn or 2 away at best. So yeah, I definitely like playing an Ironroot Treefolk here.
He gets in there for 1, down to 18.
Looks like he's considering whether he wants to play something else or just wipe the board with Pestilence.
So if you can't see through the glare, he has 3 swamps and 2 mountains in play.
So that would do 3 damage to all creatures and both players, which is enough to kill that War Mammoth.
I think he's asking a question about just the rules text on Pestilence. So I think we're confirming here that it is indeed at the end of turn when it's checked.
Let's see, looks like Todd has an Orcish Artillery, a Pyrotechnics, a Mons Goblin Raiders. Todd deep in the tank here. And here we go. Todd reaches for black mana, and Pestilence does its dirty work. Adam goes to 15, Todd goes to 9, and the board is wiped clean.
So he follows that up with a Mons Goblin Raiders.
That's a 1-1 for 1, but its main purpose here is to keep the Pestilence on the board.
Just making sure here what this thing does.
Yep, Adam was looking at a Terror in his hand, so if he can take care of that Mons Goblin Raiders, he'll get rid of Pestilence at the end of Todd's turn, and that's what he elects to do. A pretty sick 2 for 1 there.
But didn't feel too good about playing a Terror on a 1-1 that did nothing else.
I don't know, how do you feel about playing a Terror on a Pestilence?
Well, as long as it's a legal target, seems pretty good. Alright, here comes the Ironroot Treefolk. 3-5, nothing else.
So between the Orcish Artillery and the Pyrotechnics in Todd's hand, he does have what he needs to take care of that Ironroot Treefolk eventually. Unfortunately, he's at 9 life right now, so he doesn't have all the time in the world.
Well, if he plays the Artillery, he's going to take 3 damage next turn, and then he'll take 3 more whenever he shoots it. So it's not a good position to be in.
Todd being very deliberate and thinking through all of his options here. Unfortunately, in this instance, I think he's looking for a good play where one doesn't exist.
He does go with the Artillery.
That's a 1-3 for 2 red and a colorless, and its ability is tap, deal 2 damage to any target and 3 damage to yourself. It's exceptionally powerful, but unfortunately not terribly useful when you're very low on life, as Todd is.
It looks like I just drew a living wall.
Definitely one of the grosser pieces of alpha art. Adam swings in for 3, taking Todd down to 6. Things are looking pretty grim here. And down comes the wall. And Todd decides to take a look at the delightfully disgusting artwork. You know, a lot of the alpha artwork is pretty rudimentary, but this living wall really has great shading and lighting and coloration.
Yeah. Notice how once I start winning, I'm playing very sloppily, and I'm no longer spacing out my creatures.
Yeah.
That's a common characteristic of Magic players, it seems.
You left yourself wide open to a falling star right there, although neither of your creatures would have died to it. Todd considering all of his options, none of which are really good. Seems like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place here. I think he might at least have the means to kill off that Ironroot Treefolk.
Looks like he has an Immolation in his hand. So that's a red enchantment for 1 red. And it gives enchanted creature +2, -2.
And he plays it.
I think he just wanted to take 5 next turn, right?
And down comes the pyrotechnics. Yep.
All right. I think he put all 4 on the Iron Root, so he really wanted to make sure that it was dead.
Yep. Pyrotechnics, you can split the damage up any way you want between any number of targets, so he could have dealt just 3 to the Tree Folk and 1 to Adam. But if you're not too familiar with the format, then might just be safest to put all of the damage on the creature and make sure it gets the job done.
All right, looks like I'm about to empty my hand here. 7 mana, another monster play. It's a quite powerful 7/4 for 7 that does nothing else. Lady Orca. And again, notice that my creatures are not spaced apart. Sloppy play again.
Yep. Lady Orca could be taken down by the artillery plus a falling star. Additionally, you actually don't have any mana available to regenerate the living wall at the moment. Todd's still at 6 life, and he's staring down a creature with 7 power. Looks like Adam drew a forest. And he swings in. Todd can chump block here.
But seems like he's had enough. He doesn't want to continue this game anymore, so that's game 1.
Alright, so it's quiz time, Adam. What creature type is Lady Orca?
I know she's a legend, but I don't even remember what she looked like. I want to guess she's a zombie of some kind, but I don't feel like there were any zombie legends.
Alright, I'm gonna go with demon. Because I
Could
feel
be
like
right.
I feel like she has a very demonic
But she's
bald
a
head.
lady. Maybe she's a human. What is she?
There we go. Legendary creature dash demon.
Wow. I guess you know your magic cards.
Or maybe I just used her as a clue in a couple crossword puzzles. 2 vowels and an R. Very good word for filling in crosswords.
All right, looks like both players are happy with their 6 card hand, and both players are scrying.
Am I crazy, or was that an Orcish artillery again?
I did not see it. It does look like an Orcish artillery, and it's going to the bottom. He got to scry twice. Alright, we got a swamp and pass. So, I had decided that I was going to draw in this format if I had the choice, but both games my opponent had the choice, and they chose to, or Todd chose to play, so I was actually pretty happy with being able to draw both games.
So you think card advantage is the more important concern as opposed to tempo?
Yeah, I feel like this format is pretty slow, so I just wanted to be able to draw consistently and hit all my colors and get big creatures, you know?
Makes sense. Plus, who doesn't want another chance to draw Black Lotus?
Alright, so I think right here I'm contemplating between a turn 1 Land of War Elves or a turn 1 Wild Growth.
The difference being that Todd could potentially be playing a Sinkhole.
Yeah, I don't think he had the sinkhole, but I guess he could have had a weakness as well. So either way, I went with the Land of War just because I guess I wanted to get some damage in case I didn't play a creature on the second turn.
Down comes a mountain. Adam's got 2 of his 3 colors now. It's always nice.
Yeah, I think at this point I'm just playing 3 colors, but later on, I think I did sideboard into 4 colors. It was pretty greedy, but
There's basically no mana fixing in this format.
yeah, I had a Swords to Plowshares, and I couldn't answer some of the big creatures my opponents had, so I felt like I needed to side into white.
Makes sense. A low chance of being able to deal with something like a Lord of the Pit or a Nicol Bolas is better than no chance. Okay, Adam swinging for 1, taking Todd down to 19. A Wild Growth comes down on the mountain, and now the mountain taps for
a red and a green.
Red and a green.
Then we got a Fire Sprite again.
Never underestimate the power of a 1/1 flyer.
So if I make my land drop next turn, I'll have 5 mana on turn 3. Pretty good for an alpha deck, right?
And that's without the Black Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, next turn I could play land, Black Lotus, Shivan Dragon.
So here is a Zombie Master from Todd. That's a 2/3 for 3 mana. Unlike some of the other better lords like the Merfolk Lord, Zombie Master only gives his tribe regeneration and Swamp Walk.
So this guy's been errated to be a zombie, but he gives all other zombies Swamp Walk and regeneration for 1 black mana.
So he doesn't help himself, although he'd help another copy of himself.
Looks like 1 in the air coming through.
Yep, that Fire Sprites knocks Todd down to 18.
Is it a Fire Sprite or Sprites?
Well, it looks like 2 sprites to me.
Alright. 5 mana. Dirkwood board. So this is a 4/4 for 5.
Just another green vanilla monster.
Pretty good play for turn 3 at 4/4. In this format especially.
Alright, Todd untaps. Let's see if he can get anything on the board that can contest that Dirkwood Boars.
Doesn't seem very likely with only 4 mana.
He does have all 3 of his colors, though. That's nice. He's got an Ironroot Treefolk in his hand, but that costs 5 mana. That is a 3/5, though, which pairs up nicely with the boar, allowing him to block pretty much indefinitely, absent any combat tricks, which we didn't see any of from Adam in Game 1.
He just passes turn. Alright, notice the cards being split apart again. So I think I actually asked here if Falling Star was an instant or a sorcery, and they did confirm that it was a sorcery.
I'm ready and waiting for this Falling Star. Alright, Adam's swinging in for 5 with the boar and the sprites. Or the sprite and the boars. Or the boars and the sprites. I think Todd is considering Terror. I can't quite see all the cards in his hand. Looks like maybe he has a Pyrotechnics that could also take care of the boars.
But that costs 5 mana.
Well, that would be a problem. Alright, I guess Todd just took the 5 and he's at 13. And in the bottom left corner, down comes a War Mammoth.
Gotta make sure that they don't get hit by Falling Star. And the lands get piled together again.
Another forest from Todd. Looks like he's got 2 Pyrotechnics, an Ironroot Treefolk, and maybe that last card was a Terror? He's starting to get a little overwhelmed on the board, so he's got to do something. He does have the mana for Pyrotechnics here. What a tease. I thought he was actually going to make a play for a minute. Back to watching paint dry. Oh, and here's the Ironroot Treefolk.
I think this is the better play here since you can block the boars with that. And if you attack with both boars and the War Mammoth, you'd rather just kill the War Mammoth and take 4 for now. Oh, those creatures are getting kind of close together. Oh, fix that.
Looks like Adam has... is that an Urborg and a Fireball in his hand?
I think so. So Urborg is a legendary land that taps for a black. And you can also tap it to remove Swamp Walk. I mean, not Swamp Walk. First strike ability from a creature.
So Adam's got a couple options here. He could swing with the whole team, just to try to do as much damage as quickly as possible and potentially use that Fireball to finish Todd off. Or he could just remove the Ironroot Treefolk altogether with the Fireball.
So it looks like I'm tapping for 5 here, and then throw in the Urborg at 6. It looks like that Fireball is going to be aimed towards the Treefolk.
And with 0 mana, there's not really anything Todd can do about this. And Adam swings with the team, absent the elf.
8 coming in.
Yep, that'll take Todd down to 5. At what point do you start chump blocking with that Zombie Master?
I don't know. Maybe if you can get another creature in, you could, instead of chump blocking, you could actually just double block something and trade 1 for 1.
Well, Todd's untapping, so he just took the damage. Todd swings with the Zombie Master, taking Adam to 18. So at least he has the moral victory of not losing with his opponent at 20 life.
Well, this probably should be a sign. If he's attacking when he's already at 5, that means he must have some kind of trick up his sleeve. So he plays the Headless Horseman.
Now, Headless Horseman is a zombie, although it's not printed on the card.
Right, so it's a 2/2 for 3, and it's a zombie knight. So now it has Swamp Walk and regeneration for a black. So that guy can block the boars all day long.
Or at least he could, had Todd not needlessly tapped both of his swamps. Only 1 black mana in the casting cost there. There's not too much that could save Todd here. But I guess Adam's mulling over his options. And it definitely is suspicious that Todd didn't leave up regeneration mana for the Headless Horseman. Maybe an indication that he already has plans for what he's going to do with his last 2 mana. Adam's got a pretty overwhelming force that he can attack with. A 3/3 Mammoth, 4/4 Boars, a 1/1 Flyer, and he goes in with the 1/1 Elf as well.
So if he blocks the boar, the remaining 3 creatures are still lethal.
Exactly lethal.
So it looks like Todd is looking at a fog, so he's about to time walk me here.
Of all the things that he could actually have in his hand, it does look like he has a fog right now.
So that would explain why he attacked with the Zombie Master last turn. So you can see in my hand I have a Rod of Ruin here. That costs 4 to cast. Okay, Todd does play the fog. Alright, so Rod of Ruin costs 4 to cast, and you can pay 3 and tap it to deal 1 damage to any target. Now, notice that I don't have enough mana to activate after I play it. So it was actually a misplay on my part because I had that Elves, and I didn't have to attack with it. So that would have been,
of course, the Rod of Ruin
left on the board.
damage not affected by fog.
Exactly. And even if it was, I could wait until his turn to activate it. Rod of Ruin not affected by Falling Star.
Todd plays another mountain.
I do recall him having 2 Pyrotechnics in his hand, so I imagine one of them is about to come down. So I would probably elect to Pyrotechnics the War Mammoth and the Fire Sprites because that Flyer is unblockable for him, and he can block the Dirk Boars with his Headless Horseman and just regenerate it, right?
That's assuming that he's checked the errata on Gatherer and knows that Headless Horseman is in fact a zombie.
He looks like a zombie, right? He doesn't have a head. But I guess most zombies would be dead if they didn't have a head, right? So it goes against conventional zombie theory, right?
I guess so. Not that many of these old cards really recognizably adhere to conventional fantasy tropes. Really struggling to even think of any combination of cards that could get Todd out of this predicament here, especially staring down a virtually unkillable Rod of Ruin.
Well, that just means he has 5 turns, right? Or I guess it should be 4 once I untap. But it seems unlikely that he would be able to do enough damage to kill me in 4 turns given his current board state.
Yeah, it's too bad he's not playing white. Wrath of God plus Divine Offering would be pretty devastating here. But maybe he opened up something like a Mirror Universe and can get a couple extra turns out of it. Meanwhile, Todd is...
I think he's just deciding which Pyrotechnics to cast at this point.
Always important to take your time for these crucial decisions.
And he goes with the one on top. And it's going to take down the Dirkwood Boars.
So potentially not the most optimal play here, but it does help stem the tide just a little bit.
It seems maybe he didn't know that you could split up the damage.
Yeah. In both games, Todd had the opportunity to profitably split up a Pyrotechnics and chose not to do so. Just goes to show the importance of actually reading your cards and understanding what they do.
going into the tank here about my 1-1 attack.
Oh, I thought maybe you'd fallen asleep, or that you and Todd were trying to set a Guinness World Record for lowest APM in a Magic match.
Alright, getting in for 1.
That sprites will take Todd down to 4.
So essentially, by not killing that sprites, he's just halved the number of turns that he has to find an out.
Yeah, there have definitely been some suboptimal plays and missed opportunities here on both sides, I think. None bigger, perhaps, than the ample opportunities you both have had to get your opponent warned and even disqualified for slow play. What idiot judged this thing, anyway? I sure hope it wasn't me. Todd once again preoccupied with his own mortality.
Looks like he still has a pyrotechnics in his hand and a forest that he just played. So I think the obvious play here is definitely kill the sprites and the war mammoth, right?
For sure.
Then you can start getting in for 2, right?
Looks like he's targeting just that war mammoth, so I think you're right that Todd didn't know exactly how pyrotechnics worked here.
Yeah, it's definitely not as good of a card if it's just 5 mana, deal 4 damage to only one target. Alright, so he's contemplating his attacks. Alright, he gets in with just the horseman. 2 damage to me, so I rod ruin him down to 3. And then goes to my turn. Attack for 1, Todd's at 2.
2, conveniently the same amount of damage that Rod of Ruin will deal between the end of Todd's turn and your upkeep. He really needs a miracle now. I can't quite tell what Todd drew there, but I'm pretty sure it's not a Phyrexian Unlife.
Gets in for 4. Could he have another fog? Doesn't matter, does it?
Well, a fog would come from the alpha starter, and you said you can only have one of each.
Or maybe he has a
card.
regrowth, huh? Oh, he's got a grizzly bears. 1 damage. He's down to 1, and upkeep 1 more damage, and that's the match.
So Adam wins quarterfinal match number 3 and will be advancing to the semifinals, where he'll play the winner of quarterfinal match number 4. That's it for now. And if you like what you see, don't forget to click subscribe.